reported is this is getting worse and worse in this house. So immediately they're like, you know what,
Wait,
we're done.
What do you mean a seed was planted in the mirror?
That's just a poor way of describing it.
It's a process. You don't want to... It's gross.
it was a whole
this
thing
is my
about
first
the wand.
time. Please explain.
So basically the mirror, whatever this entity has attached itself to the mirror, and it grows in power based off being agitated or people paying attention to it or just being there long enough that it will slowly grow and grow more and more and more and feed off fear. So they're worried that the longer it stays there, the worse the haunting will get, and it will only get stronger. So they immediately they recommend immediately taking the mirror out of there. I thought the Newkirks were going to take it for their famous museum, but they didn't because I guess it's an expensive old-ass mirror. So the hotel immediately took it off campus and put it in an undisclosed location. And apparently the hauntings and all that stuff massively subsided, if not went completely away in the next 6 months. But that is the story of the word I can barely pronounce, the psychomantium. Psychomantium,
so,
fuck yeah.
Wait, hold on. I have all these questions. Yeah. How does a spirit get trapped in a mirror? Okay, so this guy is notorious in Gettysburg, but he somehow finds this one mirror. Does that mean the mirror belonged to him? Like, how does he get attached to it?
I missed that part. He got attached to it because, yes, he was the owner of it. He was the one who purchased it back in the day. It was his thing. Okay. 100%. I missed that.
So it's a bit of that idea of, is it panpsychism, where an energy from a life form can inhabit an object?
I think you used that word correctly. Yeah, but what have we learned about all that stuff before, though? It's usually like, even though you can haunt a mirror, but sometimes it's just being used as a device to do more haunting. You know, like he might have been attached to the mirror, but he might have been just there, and he was using the mirror as his power source to get people to like interact with it. I don't know. It could go either way. But yeah, I think you used that word correctly. But anyways,
Okay.
Right, go on. Yeah,
Wow.
What did you say, Melissa?
No, because I mean, I'm sure this creepy, disgusting human being when he was alive, and I guess even when he's dead, he would have had a lot of objects, but he chose this mirror. So I just I wonder how a spirit gets attached to the mirror. Like, is it because he never went on? Like, he never passed over? And he wanted to stay in the physical world so badly that he attached to just something he owned? I don't know. I just have all these questions. Maybe you don't have answers, but I'm just
it sounds like, you know, the power of like negative energy. It sounds like he himself and obviously everything around him, like he was obviously generating so much negative energy through what he was doing, the sick shit that he was up to, obviously. That I don't know, maybe some of that gets trapped in something like a mirror that is seen as sort of a portal device that kind of breaches worlds, you know. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just waxing lyrical here, but that kind of makes sense in my head. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Matt, what do you got? Darker.
Oh boy, man, have I got a story for you guys. So I was trying to find, like, when we were talking about this topic of like energy passing through and being conducted through objects, but also like being trapped in objects like mirrors and stuff. And I had to dive into the world of the Ouija board. Yeah. And what better entity to talk about Ouija boards with than our old pal Zozo.
Oh, Zozo.
So he's a cheeky bugger. So he so I was trying to find this. I was looking for this book forever, and it's really hard to find because you can't get it anymore. There's a Amazon page for it, and I'll put it in the show links, but it's not in print anymore. So I'm going to try and find it on eBay or whatever. So I was trying to dig up this story of a guy named Tim Wood, and he's a paranormal investigator he's been doing this for a long time. He has a YouTube channel called Live Sci-Fi, and they do a bunch of like going into a haunted house and stuff, and investigating different activities at different places, paranormal activities. But one thing they're kind of famous for, and they have a whole bunch of followers, because he started doing these Ouija board sessions. And this guy's a madman, I swear to God. He would go by himself into a known haunted area, like a house or whatever, abandoned area that was known to be like full of activity, a hotspot. And he would just start bring out the old Ouija board and start going at it. See what happens. Caution to the wind, and would just go dive headfirst into this thing. Braver man than me. But so he wanted to... Obviously, he's been in Ouija boards and this sort of thing for a long time. Had heard... knew the story of Zozo, obviously, the entity. And if you don't know about Zozo, we've talked about him before. He seems to be this demonic entity that keeps coming through Ouija boards. If that's something you fuck with, I would recommend not fucking with them.
Yeah.
After researching this, I was trying to dig into anywhere I could find, and there's so little about this. It's such a crazy story, but he still has all these videos of the actual footage of everything that happens. They're still on YouTube, and I'll link to that in our on our links page for you to check it out. But they're not they're not real slick. They're not overly produced or anything. It's just him, his webcam, and a Ouija board in a room by himself, and he goes for a couple of hours just trying to contact whoever he can. So him and one of his fellow researchers, Selena, her name is, they wrote this book called Stalked by the Zozo Demon, Real Life Paranormal Experiment. So they decided to do this experiment to try and see if this whole Zozo thing was legit. Or if it was just, people just, a meme that sort of got around and now it's taken on this tulpa form or something like that. So what they wanted to do is take 30 days trying to directly contact Zozo via the Ouija board. While he was on there, he was being monitored by Selena, who was watching the stream the whole time. And he would stream these on YouTube. So there was not just Selena, but a bunch of people watching. The book, I guess, goes into a bit of backstory into Tim. And it sounds like he's kind of a sensitive for the paranormal. He can register the stuff. It picks it up, and not just that. It seems like he attracts it, and it kind of follows him around, which is the last thing I'd be doing is fucking around with Ouija boards if that was my story. But anyway.
Right. I mean, because nobody really knows how it works. It's just a board. Looks like a game board. Right? And it's got that little thing you put your hands on. You just lightly put your hands on. And there's a window, and then it spells something out, right? But nobody really knows how it works. I mean, just... Yeah.
And, a lot of people... Yeah. A lot of people believe that it's... a lot of people believe it's bullshit, and it's just they're moving it themselves. But I guess... So Selena, the other researcher, she's the skeptic. So she didn't put any faith in Ouija board. She said it's all bullshit. So she did this experiment with him, and she was measuring his muscle movement as things were moving, and nothing in his body was being, I don't know how she did this. I haven't read the book. Obviously, I'm going to try and get it at some point. But she tried to do as scientifically as possible to try and measure to make sure that there was no chance that he was fucking with everyone. So, Tim, we start this 30-day thing. Tim's sitting in a room, and I guess he has all these crazy stories. That's the other thing I was going to get to as well. He has all these crazy stories of him, and I guess it seems like Zozo had been trying to contact him since he was a young man, which is weird because Zozo's a fairly recent... I think there's only one piece of written evidence from back in the day, and I think it's in French, that mentions a demon named Zozo who was part of 3 demons that were possessing a girl.
How does he know that that Zozo's been trying to contact him since he was a young boy? How does he know that?
He has these crazy stories. So he started with the Ouija board when he was in his teens, and this experiment took place in 2017. But the Zozo entity came through when he was in his teens, and it kept telling him things like, "I'll see you soon. If you want to contact me, I'll be there. If you want to use the board." It kept trying to get him to use the Ouija board after I think his sister, initially was the person who introduced him to Ouija boards and this whole thing.
That's freaky.
And he has this crazy story. There's a bunch of crazy stories that I won't go into because the story's already pretty long, but it seems like this thing noticed him when he was young, invited him to come talk to him again through the Ouija board, and it worked. And I think that's kind of the takeaway, but we'll get to that by the end of what this thing actually wants, I think. Well, like I said, I haven't read the book, so I don't know how it really ends, but I think that's kind of where we're going. And we'll talk about it. But, okay, so Tim's doing these sessions, and it's interesting when you watch these YouTube sessions that he's just by himself, and it's a live stream. I don't know unless there's legitimately someone in the room like fucking with stuff around him, but he's like just his hands on the planchette, moving it around, and the stuff that comes up is pretty kind of sporadic, and it doesn't come in clearly. Sometimes it spells out words and different things that he's like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I don't feel like he's making it up. At the same time, he could very well, it could all be an act, who knows, but we'll say it's real because it's fun.
Okay.
All right, so there's this one, the first one I started watching, he opens up communication with whatever. He's sitting in a room by himself again, and an entity comes through. He asks who it is, and the planchette starts spelling out the word M-O-L-E-C-H, Moloch.
Ooh.
Okay,
like,
I've heard that before.
What does that mean?
That's...
And he says, what do you want?
Demon.
And then it spells out K-I-D, kid. And he's like, whoa, what kid do you want? And then it spells out A-L-L, all. So if you know anything about the god Moloch, is the entity, the god, I guess, that the ancient Israelites would sacrifice children to, which is really weird.
Yeah.
So this thing said he wants all the kids. And then he asked it, where do you come from, or something like that, and it spelt out Lilith, Dear.
Oh.
D-E-A-R. And then he's like, all right, fuck this, and then he ends the session. But I guess you're supposed to, like, when you end the session, you're supposed to go to goodbye. Like, you're supposed to say goodbye and end the session. But he just kind of is like, all right, we're done with that for the night, and just kind of, like, moves on. And I'm like, dude, you didn't shut anything down. You just kept it open.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So when we get to Zozo, Tim has these Ouija boards that come from all over the place. He says, like, people send him stuff. I guess it's a bit like Greg and Dana Newkirk, like you were saying, like, cursed objects people send to him. So someone sent him this, like, Ouija board that they found in the forest that had dead cats on it or something. And, like, why the fuck would you, like, find a Ouija board in the forest with dead cats on it and be like, you know what? I'm going to take that home. That's coming with me. And then be like, I should send this to this guy because he'll probably know what's going on. Like, that's fucking crazy. And then I guess one of them just randomly turned up on his doorstep as well, he was saying. Like, really weird stuff happens to this guy. Anyway.
Wait, a dead cat or a Ouija board?
Yeah, so wait.
A Ouija board, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
No dead cats.
Now that is really creepy. That's just really creepy.
I know.
And by the way,
so
like,
it's almost
you're
like
never supposed to buy, when it comes to magic, well, especially because we're talking about mirrors, but mirrors, Ouija boards, book of spells, like none of that. You never buy anything used because it has all of whatever they channeled into it or whatever they put into it. It's just bad juju.
It's attached.
24/7.
It's attached to the board. That's exactly what I was just going to go into. Like, no fucking bueno, guys. Don't. My God. I mean, this guy's just doing all the wrong things, but I think he's purposefully doing that just because he's one of these people who just wants to fucking find the truth, just find any evidence that he can. So they start the experiment. They're a few days in. A few different things happen. Nothing too crazy. But one morning, Tim goes out to his car, and he finds a small fabric doll that's mounted on a piece of wood, sitting on his car, on the boot, on the bonnet, front of his car. And it looks like it's smeared with some sort of redness, like it's like brown red, and there's like, is that blood? What the fuck is this? And there's two words written across this piece of wood that this doll is sitting on, and it's in French. And it's Huet Noir, which I guess means in English 8 black or 8 darkness. And